Destroying 2 elder dragons saved countless lives, but it also created a devastating magical imbalance. Unique energy spectrums from the dead dragons surged across the globe. The world's magic devolved into chaos as the unbound dragon power spread and merged into dangerous new forms. New enemies appeared to exploit the crisis. Worst of these was one of the long-absent human deities, Balthazar, god of fire and war. Balthazar disguised himself to muster an army and absorb magic to regain his lost power. His first target was a bloodstone. Then he targeted the remaining elder dragons to harvest their energy, knowing full well the impact this would have on Tyrie. Yet amid the chaos of unbound magic, a new ally also rose. A different kind of dragon was born. Aurene chose you as her champion. You set about preparing her to someday face the elder dragons together and restore balance to the world. But will she even get the chance? It seems Balthazar no longer cares about the world, or even those who once worshipped him. He claims to have been betrayed. Whatever his reasons, he must be stopped. Centuries ago, heroes rallied to the Crystal Desert to stand against a renegade god. Will you too now answer that call?
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we announce the next expansion for Guild Wars 2. Those of you who've been following us this past year know that we've been all about delivering a steady stream of quality new content. We shipped a full season of Living World, 6 episodes with 6 new open world zones, plus new fractals and raids, PvP and World vs. World updates, legendary weapons and armor, and more. Well, we're not letting up the pace. We've designed the next expansion to slot in seamlessly, starting right from where we left off in last week's season finale, and leading right to the premiere of Season 4, all with no breaks in content delivery. So today, as we announce the new expansion, keep in mind that this also kicks off another season of live content. Another cool thing about Guild Wars 2 expansions is that they're easy to get into. They don't invalidate existing rewards, they don't invalidate existing content. New players can join the game and enjoy the same content as everyone else. That's a big deal. So last time we announced an expansion, we talked about all the things we were doing to make that vision a reality. Reworking some game systems and adding new forms of character progression, things like that. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. This new expansion is all about content. At the end of the last expansion, we killed a second Elder Dragon. That victory saved the mortal races, but at a steep cost to the world. Into this chaos, a new adversary has come. We thought that the human gods had left Tyrie, but one of them is walking among us. Balthazar, the god of fire and war. He's building his forces, and he seems hell-bent on killing elder dragons. If the gods really abandoned Tyrie, why has one of them returned? Why did he disguise himself and absorb the power of a bloodstone? What's his plan? Today we'll reveal where we're going next with the story of Tyrie. We'll travel to a long-lost land, and we'll introduce some fun new ways to play the game. Let's take a sneak peek.
Commander, there's something I have to tell you. I went into the mists after my sword, but I found something else.
Refugees are pouring in from Alona.
If he kills an Elder Dragon, Tyrie will never recover.
They cannot stand in the glory of Balthazar's light.
I will right this wrong.
I just can't believe one of the gods gave up on us.
They cannot escape my wrath. When I am done,
The next expansion for Guild Wars 2, Path of Fire. Path of Fire continues the story right where we left off, tracking Balthazar as he hunts an elder dragon. We're adventuring into the Crystal Desert for the first time since the original Guild Wars. This is the same Crystal Desert where the friendly dragon Glint once lived. The same Crystal Desert where humans once went to commune with their gods. It's been cut off from the outside world for 250 years, and now it's time to return. Path of Fire contains 5 new open world zones. They're huge. These are the largest zones we've ever shipped. And because there's so much land to cover, this is the perfect time to introduce mounts. The Raptor, the Springer, the Skimmer, and the Jackal. Each mount has its own unique movement ability, and you can use these abilities to explore every nook and cranny of the desert. We're also introducing 9 new elite specializations that will evolve your profession with all new tactics and combat abilities to master. These are the core features of Path of Fire. We'll talk a bit about each of these today, and then we'll tell you how and when you can play all this for yourself.
In Path of Fire, we were returning back to the Crystal Desert and to Northern Alona. We wanted to go back to a place that means a lot to players and has history for the franchise, but we wanted to look at something that is now fresh.
The last time we visited the Crystal Desert was in Guild Wars Nightfall. That was 250 years ago, so a lot has changed in that time.
There are iconic locations and landmarks that will be very recognizable for players who are familiar with the Guild Wars franchise, but at the same time, we're building the lore and the story in such a way that if you weren't there for the beginning, it's absolutely fine. We're going to help bring you along for this ride. There's a crisis going on in Alona, in an area that we have not been back to in 250 years.
Path of Fire starts with reports that Balthazar has been wreaking havoc in the desert.
Balthazar is the human god of war and fire. Last we had heard that the gods had kind of stepped away from Tyrie.
Human players have been worshiping him since Guild Wars 1. But then he shows up and he's not benevolent, right? He has his own goals and he clearly doesn't care about who gets harmed in the way. Everyone in Alona has the exact same questions.
Why are the gods walking amongst us? Does this mean the gods are coming back?
We don't know what he hopes to achieve at this point, and that's what you and everyone in the region is trying to figure out.
Palawajoko has risen into power. He has brought with him an army of undead, and he has totally warped the culture that is there. The civilians believe that he is their rightful ruler. He is their rightful king.
How is this region dealing with these crises? What different powers are taking advantage of the scenario? How are they trying to solve it? And how can you as the player try to help? It's already this volatile mix of different forces in the region.
One of the first factions you're going to encounter are the Forged, Balthazar's army.
Living armor created only to serve Balthazar. They're ruthless and they're just dedicated to achieving his goals.
Another faction that you're going to be seeing is the Awakened, the army of the ruler of the land, Palawajoko.
Undead forces, they still have some remnants of memories. They're sentient, but they will do anything for their master.
You've also got Kralkatork and the Branded.
Mindless elemental stripped of their original self by Kralkatork's power.
And of course the player is being asked to, come do the hero thing.
So the player needs to form a new coalition here in the desert.
Path of Fire has a great combination of old friends and new, who all have very different perspectives on Balthazar.
You've got your warriors like Ritlock, and you've got Casimir, and these people all get together to help the commander, the player. Path of Fire is going to bring 5 whole new maps to the game.
5 maps that are bigger than any map we've done before.
We'll see things that have shifted the landscape and see things in a very unique way.
So when people talk about deserts, they think sand, flat stretches, but that's not actually true, right?
It's not just, one massive desert that we're exploring, it's all these different biomes coming together.
The maps go tall, the maps go wide, the maps go under and around in places. We've really decided to bring exploration and discovery back to the forefront of Guild Wars 2. There's elements that make each map unique, but we've also got elements that kind of tie all the maps together.
We're gonna have bounties now that players can hunt dangerous creatures that have been threatening the people of Alona, world events, bosses. With the mounts, of course, we're gonna have races, content both old and new to get players engaged.
In Path of Fire, we really wanted to get back to the roots of what made Guild Wars 2 unique and fantastic.
People who are playing through the main story will really enjoy both the depth and the breadth of experiences they are able to have.
The interesting characters who, if they go just a little bit further, they'll run into.
Massive maps that are fully explorable, freedom that we haven't necessarily seen as in-depth as when we launched with the original Guild Wars 2.
There's some really cool surprises we're building in. I want them to find this world as exciting and interesting and complex as anything we've ever created. And I want them to feel like they have a place in it too.
In Path of Fire, we wanted to build upon the mastery system that we started with Heart of Thorns.
So we're introducing mounts for the first time into Guild Wars 2. Historically in games, mounts are about traveling fast. To us, mounts are so much more.
A phrase we use a lot in the office is the joy of movement. It should feel exciting to move across the Alolan desert in a variety of ways.
Each mount has its own movement ability, its own places that it can get to and no other mount can. It really just kind of strengthens that feeling of exploration that we go for in our maps.
Mounts are designed to be these companions that you have that are helping you traverse the world, but in addition to that, they're part of our mastery system. So it's additional horizontal progression. The idea here is that the mounts themselves are your ally. They're not just a creature that you're riding, they're a companion that's taking you on this journey that allows you to get across puzzles in ways that we hadn't thought possible before now.
The first mount that players get access to is the Raptor, which has this enormous leap. It can jump across canyons and over roofs.
This can be used to reach areas that might be off limits normally to a player.
Mounts are not really intended to be a combat tool, they're more of a movement tool. But all of the mounts have a single skill that they can use to engage you into combat.
The Raptor's engage skill is this tail spin.
It can like pull enemies together, so it's really good for starting off big fights. The next mount most players will encounter is the Springer, which is kind of like a mutant bunny or a slightly cuddlier jackalope. It has this leap that takes it up really high in the air.
It's a charged up jump, and the longer that you charge it up, the higher up you'll go.
And it can also be used to get access to some really fantastic stuff. The Skimmer is a really interesting mount. It's this manta-like creature with undulating wings and a strange mystical vibe.
He always hovers some distance over the ground. That means he also hovers over things like water or other things that normally would stop your motion.
If you're interested in getting to the most forbidding areas, it's going to be really awesome to have the Skimmer. The Jackal is a beast all unto itself. It's created with magical energies, it's living dust.
Its primary movement tool is to blink forward a very short distance, so you can use it to cross short gaps. Unlike the Raptor, he's able to change direction in midair, so you can solve certain puzzles that need precise directional movement.
I think there'll be some really interesting things for players to do. Each mount is a tool. When you come to a space, there's different ways to get through the same places, different ways to approach. There's something really fun just about being in the Crystal Desert, moving in this way. And that just opens up the possibility of building places that aren't like anything players have seen in Guild Wars before.
With Path of Fire, we're offering 9 new elite specializations, 1 for each of the classes. And the idea behind the specialization, it's another way to customize your playstyle.
In a lot of ways, that gets back to what Guild Wars has been about from the beginning. Character progression doesn't just mean getting better, getting more powerful. Character progression means having new options, more things that I can do, more strategies that I can employ.
What that means for the player is that they can experience the game in a lot of different ways.
Path of Fire will present you with the options to play the profession that you've known and loved in a new fashion, and in doing so, shake the world up a bit.
The Guardian Elite specialization is called the Firebrand. He specializes in burning his enemies and conjuring magical tomes that he can use to support his allies.
They're the book nerd gone mad. They've got access to all these secret histories and these tomes that give them access to new skills really quickly.
It's going to be giving up instant support for allies in favor of casted support. The benefits of Guardians taking the Firebrand are that you're going to have a lot more focused support available to you.
The weapon that they're wielding is the axe, a very offensive, up-close and personal means of eradicating the enemy.
You've been entrusted with these secrets, and you have to protect them with your life.
One of the most interesting changes is the necromancer, who gets the scourge specialization.
They're rejecting Palawa Joko and finding this kind of alternate approach to necromancy in the desert. So they're there to help protect the souls that Joko's trying to take control over.
What the necromancer is going to do is he's going to give up his death shroud, and instead he's going to place his life force onto the earth and protect allies from those locations.
He gets a lot more battlefield control and movement options that the regular necromancer would not have.
The Scourge gets the torch as an offhand weapon, protecting their allies with it, and lighting the way to, well, damnation for their enemies. The new elite specialization for the Thief is the Deadeye. They run with the rifle.
The rifle gives them a lot more range. It lets them tackle certain problems from a distance that normally they'd have to face up front.
They form a contract to take out a particular individual, and then they execute on that.
The Deadeye would have me terrified, you know, that there's someone out there stalking me, waiting for me to make a mistake so they can take me down. They're mercenaries, they're assassins, they're trained hunters. Great to have on your side. Don't get them upset.
The Mesmer specialization, the Mirage, focuses on being a very deceptive combatant in close melee range.
They blend into basically whatever their surroundings are, camouflaging themselves so that you can't see them, and while they're doing this, they can strike at you from multiple directions.
The other interesting thing about the Mirage is that it has a different dodge mechanic. They have a blur effect that allows attacks to pass through them rather than them moving out of the way of the attack.
The idea that there are folks who now can manipulate the desert itself to kind of provide power to their illusions and phantasms, I think it's a really cool direction for the Mesmer to step in.
So the warrior specialization is called the Spellbreaker, and I guess as the name implies, it's a warrior who kind of specializes in fighting magic users.
These folks were members of the Sunspear Order, the chosen guardians of Alona. When their order was smashed, they picked up stopping powerful wizards was the best way to protect people.
They wield daggers, and they have become so ridiculously focused at perceiving magic that now they're able to actually cut magic off of their foes.
So they've got these incredibly powerful retaliatory abilities. They've got the ability to just stop skills from working in an area or strip the enemy's boons. You don't just challenge your enemy where they're weak, you challenge them where they're strong, and you make them back down.
The Weaver is an elementalist who has decided that they are going to specialize in the desert in wielding multiple attunements at once.
Elementalists normally cycle through their magic one after the other, but the Weaver is combining them and creating these new elements out of the two, this kind of hybrid magic.
The Weaver can have 2 fire skills, 2 water skills, and then a 5th skill that is a fire and water skill simultaneously.
The weapon that they're going to be wielding is one that elementalists have long requested, the sword. So they will be picking up the access to imbue their blades with sabers of lightning, earthen hilts.
Playing a Weaver has this really interesting rhythm to it that is really cool. You can really surprise your opponents, catch people off guard, and keep a sense of flexibility. Your enemy doesn't know what you're about to do, and I think there's something really cool there.
The Soul Beast is our ranger specialization that allows rangers to combine their spirits with their pet.
They become their bear, they become their devourer. They take on the essence of these animals and tear through opponents.
They also gain access to the dagger as a main hand weapon. Now they can kind of, slice and dice with both components, crossing into close range, as well as crippling from a distance.
It works really well with some of the new pets that we're adding for rangers in Alona.
The Renegade is the elite specialization for the Revenant. This is a new legend that they get to channel, and the legend is of Kala's Scorchrazor, this renegade char.
And she kind of bestows on the player her rebellious spirit that she used to overthrow the Flame Legion. And what this kind of manifests as is the ability to ambush opponents. You can summon members of her char warband to bolster your allies, or you can fire arrows into a portal into the mist that come out of a different portal behind the enemy.
What's really exciting about the Renegade is the idea that standing up to powerful, intimidating foes because you know what's right and you know you'll win in the end.
The Hollowsmith is the engineer's elite specialization. They take a very clean look at energy, light in particular, and find ways to bend it to enhance their strikes.
He can have this kind of interesting multi-weapon playstyle. You can do an attack where you pull out a holographic hammer and you hit him with the hammer, and then you can pull out some holographic guns and you shoot them with the guns.
In the process, they build up heat within themselves. If they stay too long in this kind of heated mode, they will eventually explode.
The idea of bending light to be your weapon, I think, is really cool.
Elite specializations are a really fun way for us to explore different ways to play the same character.
They push the bounds of what they've done before.
You get to choose how your character exists in the world, what they do, how they do it, and these elite specializations allow you another step in customizing the character to meet that end.
And that is Path of Fire. It's a rich experience that will take you to the sands of the Crystal Desert, pit you against new foes, and change the way you fight and explore the world. An epic story, 5 immense new open world zones, mounts that allow you to move through Tyrie in all new ways, and 9 new elite specializations. Plus, a brand new guild hall to unlock and call home. You can buy Path of Fire as a standalone expansion. You don't need to already own the base game or Heart of Thorns. And we're also offering a bundle deal with both expansions. Everything you need to know is at guildwars2.com. The final question is always, when can I play? Well, I have some good news. We'll be running a preview experience event next weekend. It's open to everyone, even if you're not already a Guild Wars 2 player. Just create a free account today to get ready for it. And after the preview event, you don't have long to wait. The gates to the Crystal Desert open in less than 2 months. Path of Fire launches September 22nd. We truly couldn't be more excited to share with you what we've been creating with Path of Fire. As always, it's you, the fans, who make all this possible. Thanks again for your support and for being an integral part of Guild Wars 2. We'll see you in the Crystal Desert.